Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Good evening. My name is Barney, and I'm an alcoholic. I know that's wrong. What time is it?
9:15.
Oh, we got it 8:15. All right. In Phoenix, it's 9:15, and in Alderson, it's 11:15.
The meeting's over.
Yes. My name is Barney, and I'm an alcoholic. And it's true, I now live in Alderson, West Virginia, and I'm there most of the year now. I spend about 7 months or so in Alderson. I retired a couple of years ago, and my wife and I love it there very much. It's a very pretty place. All mountains and trees. You must come to West Virginia if you haven't been. And trust me, now we're talking West, by God, Virginia. Don't ask me about the state of Virginia. We're from West, by God, Virginia. And we split away from the folks in Virginia during the Civil War. They formed our state in 1863. And among other things, Lincoln thought it would be just a Jim Dandy way to punish Robert E. Lee by tearing away part of his state. And so they did, but there had been a movement for, about 40 years to make that a separate state. The reason being that West Virginia, I don't know what the hell it's got to do with drinking, nothing really, but West Virginia was very different from Virginia. West Virginia had no plantations. It was not a good place to plant anything because it's all mountains and trees there, and you can't grow anything really. It's they do a lot of lumbering and coal and gas and oil, but the slavery became a big issue for the West Virginians because they didn't have any to speak of. They didn't have any plantations. And so they thought that they ought to split away, and indeed they did. We have in Alderson, we have anywhere from 4 to 7 members of our Sunday night Alderson group of Alcoholics Anonymous. We have in nearby Lewisburg, which is about 35 minutes away, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we get about 8 to 12 to 15, so you can get a rough idea of the kind of meetings we have there. And it is very difficult to convince people in those meetings that I go to back there, at least to convince most of them, that this thing works better if you don't drink between meetings. We have some interesting cases. I have one guy named Jim that I've been hauling to meetings lately. Jim is drunk all the time, and he calls me and he wants to go to meetings, and I'll say, you can't disrupt the meeting, Jim. If I take you, you can't be disruptive. So one night on these very dark roads back there, he showed me the way to the Lewisburg meeting, the back way. And he was very drunk, and a few days later he called me, and I said, well, I'm going to go to the Lewisburg meeting tonight. Do you want to go? And he said, no, I don't think so. I think I would be disruptive tonight. And I said, well, I'm going to go. He said, do you know the back way? And I said, well, yeah, you showed it to me the other night. He said, I did? I said, yeah, don't you remember? He said, no. He said, but God works in mysterious ways, doesn't he? And indeed he does. Anyway, I'm glad to be here tonight, and I'm glad to be able to participate in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. We do not have speaker meetings back there, so I kind of miss them. I like to get out to California, and I come out here in the wintertime now. We came out in late November. We'll be here until probably late March, early April. I went back in mid-March last year, but it was a little early. And it was a bit nippy back there, and it snowed twice in early April back there. So this year I think I'll wait till April. But anyway, it is fun to be here. I got sober originally in Los Angeles, and have lived in sobriety in Los Angeles and Philadelphia and San Diego and in Orange County, and it's been a good life, this AA life. AA and sobriety are the best things that have ever happened to me, by far. I feel really good about the fact that I'm sober tonight. Got through another Christmas and sober again. And there aren't any new people here tonight unless somebody snuck in. Anybody here less than 30 days at all? How about less than a year? Anybody have less than a year of sobriety? Yeah, we have a few people. Anyway, it's the best deal I ever had. Let me tell you about my last drink. Maybe that would be of some interest. Maybe not, I don't know, but be of some interest to me, I guess. I had my last drink without knowing that it was my last drink. And I remember it very well because I only had 2 drinks that night. I was convinced that if I had any more to drink, that I was going to get really blitzed, and I didn't want to get really blitzed because my wife was divorcing me and I was trying to stop the divorce, and I was sure that if I had a 3rd drink that I would get drunk, and that would really do the number. So I decided I'll try not to get drunk tonight, and I drove to a series of bars that night, wanting desperately to have a 3rd drink. Really needed a drink. The craving that they talk about had kicked in, and it kicks in right after I had my first drink. And I didn't know it until that night. I mean, I didn't realize that I was that hooked on booze, and that this craving, this phenomenon of craving that the book talks about, kicked in after the first drink. I always thought, well, I don't have any craving, I don't have craving, and I never had a craving because I never denied myself a drink. If I wanted a drink, I had one, and if I had one, then I had lots. But I decided that night that I was going to try not to have the 3rd drink, and I kept going from bar to bar. I lived in Woodland Hills at the time, and I started out in Hollywood drinking, and then drank, and then worked my way out along all the bars in the San Fernando Valley. And I kept drinking club soda and looking around at the guys in the bars and thinking, Jesus, what am I doing in here? This is goofy, and seeing myself in them, and thinking, this is ridiculous. I don't think I'm really alcoholic, but God, I got to quit this behavior. I got to quit doing what I'm doing. And she's probably right. She thought I was alcoholic, and I didn't think that, but I thought, I'm drinking too much, and I have to do something about this. This is nuts. And so I had those 2 drinks, and that was it, and I went home, and I was miserable, and I couldn't get to sleep, and it was very uncomfortable. Now, I'd been in AA. I'd gone to AA 15 days before, and I'd gone to meetings for 10 days, and I hadn't had a drink in 10 days. And So I thought, well, okay, I got it. One day at a time. You don't take the first drink. I got that. Okay, no big deal. You know, it doesn't take it. I don't have to go to these meetings every night to understand that. I understand. I heard you read chapter 5 every damn night, like you couldn't remember it. And I thought, well, you know, I got one of those books. If I want to read chapter 5, I got that in there. And whatever those traditions are, I don't understand that, but they got those, you know. And sometimes they hang them on the wall, and they got pictures of guys on the wall. And I don't know what the hell was going on, but I understood clearly that the information appeared to be in that blue book. If I needed any information, I could go to that blue book. And I saw absolutely no reason for sitting in an endless series of churches or halls or meeting places listening to the same crap. I mean, that's really the way I felt. It was like the sameness of it all. It was, you know, God almighty. It was like, all right already, you know? I got it. So I stopped going to the meetings after 10 days, and then 5 days later, I drove away from work one night, and it was like my car had a magnet on it, you know. It was like, you know, I gotta have a drink. And once I had the drink, as I say, I was crazy. And now I don't know what alcoholism is at the time, but I'm pretty sure I ain't one. I'm reasonably sure that I don't have a drinking problem, because when I drink, I feel better. So I can't see how that's a problem. People, you know, well, you have a drinking problem. No, drinking is good. That's why I do it. Drinking makes me feel really good. Really good. On the other hand, if I stop drinking and I don't drink for a week or two, then I get edgy and uncomfortable and nervous and panic-stricken even, and life is not so good, and it's kind of black and white and boring and dull and gray and all that. So drinking is good, and staying sober too long is not so hot. This is my experience. And then well-meaning people are suggesting to me that it would be better if I didn't drink. And I know that it's not better if I don't drink. It's not better if I don't drink. It's bad if I don't drink. I have a lot of pressure on me. Responsibility. I had a wife and 6 children, and a responsible job. I was a television news anchorman in Los Angeles, and I had a nice home in Woodland Hills, and I had a lot of stuff. I had accumulated a lot of stuff over a period of years, and I was 35 years old, and as far as I could tell, I'm a pretty successful guy, and but much of the time I'm very uncomfortable with life, and I don't know what the hell's the matter. It's like something's wrong, and I don't know what it is. And I don't know whether it's, maybe I'm married to the wrong woman, maybe I got too much pressure, too much responsibility, too many bills to pay. I owed a lot of money. The more I make, the more I spend. I always manage to spend about 10% more than I make. I've always been that way. And it's just too much pressure on me, and the responsibility is very heavy, and I don't know what the hell to do. And of course I drink sometimes because of all the pressure that I feel, and because of the anxiety that I feel, and the fear that I feel about the stuff that I can't even explain to people. I've spent much of my life just afraid of life, afraid of everything, afraid of fear itself, afraid of success, terrified of success, scared to death I'm going to fail. Just, going around, walking around all the time like some kind of a little kid in a grown-up body trying to figure out what it's all about, and I don't know. And that's how I felt. It's pretty hard to explain that to people. You can't really tell people how you feel. You wake up one morning and you're hungover and you're screwed up, and you take a shower and you go into work, and you walk into a television newsroom, and the news director comes by and says, "How you doing?" What are you supposed to do? Tell them the truth? Say, "Well, I'm afraid." Oh, really? What are you afraid of? I don't know. I just woke up that way this morning. Feel uneasy. I'm a little afraid of you. I'm afraid of authority figures. I'm afraid of my wife. I'm afraid of life. I'm afraid of... I'm just afraid. Or you walk into a room full of writers and bright people and producers and people that are really slick. And they say, how's it going, Barney? And you say, well, I have a deep-seated sense of inadequacy. I don't think I fit in here very well. I'm not as smart as you people, and I'm not as glib as I'm supposed to be, and I just don't have it. And today especially, I don't have it. And some days are better than others, But I was driving, and this old lady went by on a bus and looked at me funny, and it just made me crazy. And I don't know what's the matter with me, but I think I'll go hide for a few days. No, you just tell me you feel fine, that's all. That's the correct answer. I'm fine. How are you? I grew up in an Irish Catholic neighborhood on the south side of Chicago where psychiatry was not real big. What you did was you suck it up, You suck it up and you get tough and you look like you're okay. That's what you do. And I did that all my life. And I thought it was a weak thing to stand around and talk about how you felt. I heard men in AA talk about how they felt, and I thought, this is goofy. What do people do that for? That's not manly. You just tell them that you're okay. You tell them you're fine. Surrender is not in your vocabulary. You never give up. And I'm in AA, and they're talking about surrender. They're talking serious surrender. They're talking about, the walls of my fort are blown down and all my guys are dead and we're out of bullets. And the opposing general has got a .45 between my eyes. That kind of surrender. And I don't understand. They're talking God, and I had 16 hours of theology at the University of Notre Dame. I know a lot about God. Intellectually, I understand a lot about God. What I don't have is a conscious contact with God, which that book talks about. And I'm never going to have that because at best I'm an agnostic. At best I'm an agnostic. Maybe there's a God, maybe there's not a God. It's got nothing to do with me. I don't want to think. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to think about it. Not an issue for me. For me, issues have to do with money, property, prestige. How big is your house? How many cars do you drive? That kind of stuff. And with all of the confusion and the pressure and the anxiety and the frustration that I feel in life, it's no wonder I drink. Jesus, I gotta have a drink once in a while. I gotta. And unfortunately, when I begin to drink, I don't seem to be able to stop, and there's this crazy thing that goes on, and I end up forgetting where the hell I am, and I lose my car, and I travel, and I spend huge amounts of money, and I end up in places like Paris and Jamaica and Culver City. I don't know where the hell I end up. I just don't. I wake up in odd places. I spend huge amounts of money. Jesus. Always having to explain myself, always having to say I'm sorry, always having to say I won't do it again, always having to say, honest to God, I'm not gonna behave that way again, always having to say I'm not that kind of person. So I don't know what the hell to do, and my wife is divorcing me when I'm 35, and I got to do something about it, and I know I got to do something about it, but I don't think it's alcoholism. I don't think I have a disease. I don't know what the hell's the matter with me. And I go to these meetings. And after I had those 2 drinks, I went back to the meetings. Then I was embarrassed because I meant to stay sober for 6 months, truly, that's what I had in mind. I'll stay 6 months, I'll figure it out, and I'll get the hell out of AA, and I don't need any more of that crap. So I came here. I came here for 6 months. I remember it's so funny. I used to come to the AA meetings between newscasts in the evening, between 6 and 11. And I would have makeup on, and people looked at me funny, you know. And I felt the need sometimes to explain to them, and then I thought, oh, screw them, I don't explain nothing. And I felt different, of course. There wasn't another newscaster anywhere. Not in those days. Now we got a few, but in those days, not anybody around. A couple of actors, you know. And so I went to the meetings, and I felt weird and different and strange. And I don't believe in God, and they're reading this stuff about God, and they're talking about God, and people are getting up to the podium and telling all these terrible stories about things they did, you know, jails, hospitals, institutions. I don't identify with any of that. You know, your leader tonight talked about, he got out of prison, and my first reaction to that would have been, aha, I'm not like that. See, nope, and then shut it off, then turn it off. Anything else he said, turn it off, because I'm not like him. Or a woman got up, well, I'm sure as hell not like her. Shut it off, don't listen. Or, who knows, any way to be different, any way to be different. And I'm not looking for any of the similarities, I'm just listening for differences. The minute I hear one, click, it's over. And I went to meetings. And it seemed like everybody in the meetings had sponsors, and I was lucky. I ended up in sponsorship country in West Los Angeles, because you go to a lot of places in the country and sponsorship just ain't that big a deal. They just don't have it, they don't believe in it, they don't think it too much about it. Yeah, I mean, you go to some places, I was up in Akron, Ohio last year, and they're still talking about the 4 absolutes up there. I mean, you know, things are not the same everywhere. You know what the 4 absolutes are? I'll tell you after the meeting. But anyway. So, you know, I went to the meetings that I got this sponsor, and he told me, he said, now look, he said, if you want to stay sober, you got to be an activist in AA. And I said, what does that mean? He said, well, you got to be involved in the meetings. You can't just come in here like you're part of the audience and drift in late and leave early. I used to do that because I don't want to pray, okay? I don't want to pray with these people. So I left early. I didn't stick around for the birthdays either. They used to have birthdays at the end. I don't want to hear that. And I don't ever expect to have one, so there's no point in sticking around for that. And so it was just, you know, and then finally he insisted that I come early and to get involved. And so I did that. I made coffee on Saturday night. And for a very large meeting, I used to make 4 or 5 pots of coffee. And then on Wednesday night, I became a greeter on Wednesday night at the Echo Park meeting. And I used to stand at the door and, hi, how are you? My name is Barney, and I'm an alcoholic. Now, I told him, I said, if I tell him that, I'll be lying, okay? Because I don't think I'm an alcoholic. He says, all right, tell him anyway. He said, it's okay to lie. I said, okay. He said, AA's full of liars. It doesn't make a difference. It's fine. So I stood there, you know, I'm an alcoholic. I became a floor mopper on Tuesday night at Ohio Street, and I just was all these actions and activities, and then I would go out for coffee with him. He wanted to always go out for coffee after the meeting, and he listened to my nonsense with great patience for months and months and months. I mean, I would sit and I would say, Keith, you know, he'd say everything's going to be all right, and I'd say, when the hell is it going to be all right, Keith? It's not good. I owe a lot of money. My wife is divorcing me. The judge has ordered my house sold. The 2 lawyers want all the money I got, and you know, I'm going to be really broke, and I'm going to owe a lot of money, and I've got these 6 kids, and I ended up with custody because of my big mouth. And what am I going to do? When is it going to be all right? What the hell do you mean all right? That ain't all right. And he'd say, well, just keep coming back. And, you know, he'd put his arm around me and say, I love you. And he would listen to me. He would listen to my bullshit. And one night I went up to this woman after the meeting, and she seemed to be in charge or something, and I said, you know, I said, I noticed that you read the same stuff out of the book all the time here. I thought maybe that you would like to find some other inspirational readings, and I could probably help you with that. Because it's, you know, everything that was ever written is not that blue book of yours, you know. So maybe I could find some of that. And I noticed many of the people that you call on to read are really not very good at it. And it happens that I am. So I thought maybe I could help the folks by reading, you know, maybe that would be good. And she said, well, you know, how long have you been sober? And I said, well, a couple of weeks. And she said, well, let's wait till you get a month and we'll consider it. You know, maybe we'll have you read. And so I went to this sponsor and I said, that bitch is killing newcomers. I can tell you that right now. I volunteered my services, imagine that? And she rejected me, can you imagine? But that's the way I was. I was frustrated and angry, and I hated AA meetings, and I hated the book, and I just hated everything that went on here. And it just, you know, and I would come in night after night after that. It was just, God Almighty, when is this going to end? It was just awful. Endless meetings. And finally, I had a sort of spiritual experience one night. I was sitting in a meeting, and this gorgeous redhead walked by, and I decided that she could help me, and so I pursued her pretty good, and she didn't want to date me because I was new, and you know, she had 3 years sober, and I said, well, I'm new now, but I'll be old later. How about coffee, you know? And I chased her around the meetings for, you know, a long time, but that became sort of my reason to go to the meetings. And it's okay. That's why I always say to people, it doesn't matter what your motives are. It just doesn't matter. As long as your ass is in the chair, it doesn't matter what your motive is. Because I had terrible motives, just terrible motives. I was trying to get one woman to drop a divorce while I'm pursuing another woman. And I ended up in an apartment in Santa Monica with my 6 kids, and I just felt awful. And when I was about 6 months sober, I heard a guy named Chuck C. talk. And somebody said, oh, he's wonderful. You know, he's a wonderful spiritual speaker. And I went to hear him, and I didn't understand a damn thing he said. And I went up to him after the meeting, and I said, I do not understand you. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And so he said, well, come and see me. And I said, well, where do you live? He said, Laguna Beach. Well, you know, I'm not going to go to Laguna Beach to talk to some old guy. What am I going to do that for? So 11 years later, I went to see him. But I used to go and listen to him talking, and it made no sense to me at all. One night when I was 7 months sober, I heard a guy talk. And something happened, something odd happened. Here I am going to meetings every day and not identifying with anybody and hating AA. And I'm sitting in this meeting this night, and I'm hearing this guy talk, and he threw me a curve because he didn't talk so much, it seemed to me, about his drinking. It seemed to me he was talking about how he felt, and he was hitting me right on the head. He was talking about a whole series of emotions that he had experienced most of his life, including fear and anxiety and a sense of not fitting in and not belonging, and a feeling of inadequacy. And Jesus, he went on and on and on, and he described all of these emotions very, very clearly to me. And I understood what he was talking about. For the first time, I'm sitting there and I'm going, first time in my life, you understand, I'm sitting there listening to somebody and I'm saying, wow, I have felt that way. I know what he's talking about. And And he finally said, if you're walking around with a set of emotions, anything like what I'm describing, all it means is that you're pretty neurotic. Now, if you seem somehow unable to control and enjoy your drinking, we got a name for that. So if you're a neurotic who drinks a lot and seems unable to control and enjoy it, it's a disease, turns out. Accepted by the AMA, it's called alcoholism. And he said, well, the problem with it is that it's incurable. All we can do is arrest it one day at a time. And I don't know, it just made sense to me. It rang my gong. And I went up after the meeting and I said to this guy, I said, if what you're saying is true, I may be alcoholic. And he said, well, aren't you the guy that mops the floor on Tuesday? I said, yeah. He says, well, you're a quick study, I guess. So now I know I'm alcoholic. Now I don't like AA any better, and I'm reasonably sure I don't have to hang around here like the rest of these people forever. But I was interested in this girl, and so I keep going with her. I finally got her to go out with me, and we start dating, and then finally I got a year cake. I got a 1-year cake. I was surprised the hell out of me that I was here for a year. I didn't mean to stay for a year. I didn't like it here. I wasn't what I would call an AA fanatic by any means, and but I, a couple people asked me to talk, and I said, I don't think so, because I'm going to say things you want to hear. So I better not do that. So when I was a year and a half sober, a woman asked me if I would talk out in Palm Desert. And I said, oh, Palm Desert. And she said, yeah. And I said, how many people go to your meeting? She said, there's about 30 there usually. It's a Friday night meeting or Saturday night meeting. And it's the one on Portola there. And I said, well, yeah, I could do that. Because I figured nobody will even know me there. And I could tell them the truth. AA, I hate AA, I hate the book, I hate, go on and on with my litany of hates. So I got Carol to go out there with me, but she would not go to the meeting with me because she knew what I was thinking about. And she said, I will drop you off at the meeting, but I'm not going to go and listen to that crap. I am not. Because she said, I'm sober in AA for almost 4 years, and I'm not going to listen to your bullshit, okay? I said, well, that's a hell of a way to talk. So I walk in this meeting, and I think, I'm going to get away with something. And I walk in, and it turns out that a guy who lived in Palm Desert and at that time ran the Palm Springs Roundup, a guy named Maury, had invited a lot of his friends out. This was the weekend of New Year's. He'd invited a whole bunch of his friends out there for a New Year's Eve party, and they were all at this damn meeting. Old timers up the yin-yang. I mean, Chuck Chamberlain was there, and Jack Turton, and guys with 30 years and 35 years. I walk in and I go, whoa! And I knew Turton. I'd met him at the Men's Stag in Beverly Hills, and I said, Jack, I can't talk in here tonight. And he said, why not? I said, are you crazy? I'm a year and a half sober. This place is 9,000 years of sobriety in here. And he said, that's all right. I don't think anybody get drunk. Go ahead. So I did, and I just unloaded. I unloaded. Talked about how I felt, talked about, what my life had been like. I talked about how I hated AA and how I hated being around. And I talked about sometimes I only go to meetings because I'm chasing this girl. And I told the truth. For the first time in my life, I opened the zipper and I let people see what was inside. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but that's what I was doing. And people talked to me after the meeting, and these old timers, and they said, Jesus, you know, here's the way to look at it. This is what you got to do, and this is great, you know, that you feel this way. It's great because you got a place to start, you know. And it didn't make any sense to me. But I went to meetings, and I went to meetings, and I went to meetings, and I got a job back east with CBS. Best job I ever had. And I ran back there. I married Carol. She had 2 kids. I had 6 kids. So I hauled her and the 8 kids all the way back east. And I'm doing stuff back there. And Jesus, I'm working with the big guys. I'm working with Cronkite, and I'm working with Dan Rather, and I'm working with these guys. And I thought, hey, this is it now. I'm sober, and now I'm going to get rich and famous. And unfortunately, they had me anchoring the news in Philadelphia. Then I was going up to New York and doing stuff in Washington, and I thought, this is really going to be my moment. And the ratings didn't move as fast as they thought that they should. And about a year, 14 months later, they fired me, and I felt just terrible, and I felt like a failure, and I felt like a real loser, and I felt like the promises in the book were not going to be mine. I was just going to get screwed. And here I was sober, and here I was a wonderful member of AA. And I came back to California, and I went to work in San Diego for a while, and I hated the job I had down there, and I quit. And I was out of work for several months when I was 6 years sober. And I was sponsoring people, and I was reading the book, and I was going to meetings, and I was unemployed. And I was a failure, and I didn't know what the hell was the matter with me. And I sat on a beach in La Jolla one night, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried, because I was such an utter failure, such an absolute failure. And I was thinking about Chamberlain talking about he'd lost the battle of life. And I said, Jesus, I've lost it, and I'm 6 years sober. He at least had the excuse of being drunk. But I was a failure sober, and I don't like to be a failure sober. And so I cried, and I cried, and I finally screamed at God, whom I did not believe in. And I just screamed out, I give up, I give up. Now, I didn't know that I was beginning a process we call surrender here. I didn't know that that was the beginning for me in terms of really letting go, and really letting go of money, and letting go of property, and letting go of prestige, and letting go of all the stuff that had been important to me all my life. But I let go, and I decided I'll take any stupid job I can get. I don't care what it is. I don't care what they pay me. How much money I make is none of my damn business. I've just got to work so I can feed my kids. And my wife was going to divorce me. This is Carol, the second wife, is going to divorce me now. And I thought, well, okay, so I blew another marriage. But not too long after that, I got a call from a guy, and he said he offered me a job back up in LA, and I went back to work up there, not as an anchorman, but as a field reporter. And I did that, and they started giving me money, and then they gave me contracts, and I never asked them for anything. And they said, how much money you got to have? I said, I don't care. And I really felt that way. And they kept giving me more money, and I don't know, out of guilt or something, I don't know. All of a sudden, I make a lot of money. And the family stayed in San Diego, and I worked in LA, and I went home on weekends for years and years and years. And then I covered Orange County for them, and then I ran their bureau in Orange County for a long time. And I was very successful, and all I ever tried to do was show up and look alert. That's all I ever tried to do with them. Because I don't have anything left in me that can prove to anybody else that I'm wonderful. I got nothing left. So I just would show up and do whatever they asked me to do and shut up. And it worked very well for me for a long time. And 2 years ago I got sick. My lungs filled up with blood clots, and I had a heart attack, and blah, 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 blah. Goes on and on. I'm not like you're talking about your brother. It's no fun to talk about. But I damn near died. And so the company and my doctor and other people decided I couldn't go back to work, so I went on disability. And that's when we bought this place back in West Virginia 30 acres of woods. It's beautiful. And I live back there now. I'm going to buy a computer next week. And I'm going to start doing some writing. And I don't know if I got the great American novel in me either. I don't know. But I know that the only real skill I ever had in my life was writing. The rest of it I had to fake. And so I'll do some writing, you know. And I don't know how that's all going to go. I've got the slightest idea. But that's what I'm going to do. And I will continue to go to meetings in West Virginia when I'm there, and I will continue to try to carry whatever message I have in there. It's hard to sell when you go to another place. People don't want to know about sponsorship. They don't want to know about the not drinking. They don't want to know about the book. They don't want to know about the steps. They don't want to know. AA is treated kind of in that area as a place to rest up between drunks. And you get real tired, you go to an AA meeting for a few days. But you talk to them about sponsorship, and it's like, you know, they don't want to know. The longest sober person in the entire area of all the meetings that I go to around there, within, I suppose 50 square miles, the person sober the longest that I have found has got 4 years. And last May, for reasons that are way beyond me, I was 25. I'll be 26 years sober next May. I don't know what the hell that's all about. My wife is going to be 29. Jesus, we're a couple of old fools, you know, and we're in our 60s, and we're like a couple of relics. I mean, they don't even want to hear from us. And I don't know I don't know what it means yet. I'm not sure what it all means. But that's what we do, and that's what we're going to do. And I'll be in California, I hope, for about 4 months a year, and in the wintertime, and be able to get kind of rejuvenated, come out here. And it's like a pit stop in a race, you know. You come out here, you get your oil and gas and tires, and then I'll go back, you know, take another run at them. But I have, over a long period of time, I have come to believe that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity. Took a long time, and I don't know that he's really restored me to sanity yet. I think he can, though. I think what Chuck C. used to think. I think that the first 2 words of the Our Father mean exactly what they say. Our Father. He's my dad, and I'm his kid. That's what I think is our relationship. And I talk to him that way, and I communicate with him that way in my shower, in my car, and wherever I am. Hi, Dad. Here we go. You know, let's don't get me to anything today you can't get me out of. And so and so it goes. Carol and I have been married now. It's going to be 24 years in January. And we had those 8 kids, and we have 15 grandchildren now. And spent some time with some of them over the holidays, and had a nice Christmas with them. I trust that you did too. And, but our job now as alcoholics is not so much to, celebrate Christmas and New Year's as it is to celebrate, February 8th and to survive March 12th. And to get through July 18th, those are the tough days for people like you and me. So I try not to get too high on the holidays so that I don't crash too low afterwards. I just, kind of mellow my way through. I love the trees and the decorations and the things that are going on, and, it's fine. But I have to survive out there every day next year. Every day's Christmas for me. Any day I wake up and I haven't had a drink is I'm 100% successful. Everything else is gravy. 100% successful if I haven't had a drink. And I have to remember that every day. And thanks a lot for listening.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. to install the joysticks for control. Up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.